Hello, my name is Matthew Hunter with Legacy Wilderness Academy, and I'm on a mission to document every edible and medicinal plant in the southeastern U.S. so Southerners can have greater access to nutritious food and free medicine. In this video, we're going to be looking at a group of powerful antimicrobial herbs used for fighting off numerous types of infections, including cold and flu, sinus infections, yeast and candida infections, urinary tract infections, bacterial infections, and more. They're called the bee balms or horsemints, and they're in the genus Monarda. In this video, I'll show you how to identify two different species of Monarda that are widespread throughout the southeastern U.S. We'll talk about where they grow, and then we'll take a detailed look at their medicinal uses. After that, I'll show you how to turn them into a medicine. But before we begin, I'll quickly mention that if you want to learn more about medicinal plants of the Southeast, make sure to download my free guide to medicinal plants, which you can find in the link in the description below this video. The first species of Monarda we'll look at is the common bee balm, also known as wild bergamot or Monarda fistulosa. You can see here it's identified by its distinct pink flowers, which appear around the month of June in my area. If we look at a close-up of the flowers, you can see that the top petal is really thin and narrow, and it actually has the stamens that are exerting out of the top there, and then it has these little hairs on the very tip of the top petal. It has these like little tuft of hairs. So it's really like a two-petaled flower with a narrow upper petal and then a lower lip. After the flowers disappear around the end of June in my area, you're going to see clusters of these star-shaped sepals that get left behind. And this is a common feature in some plants in the mint family. Okay, so bee balm is in the mint family. Next, we'll look at one of the leaves. You can see the toothed leaves. You can see exactly what they look like here. And this plant also has oppositely arranged leaves. And it also has square stems. So you can see the opposite leaf arrangement, which means that they come out at the same place along the stem, and also square stems. So this is a common characteristic of the mint family: opposite leaves and square stems. And this plant also has a very distinct smell. It comes from its active constituent called thymol, which is named after thyme because thyme has the same constituent, thyme of course being in the mint family as well. And that name wild bergamot comes from the plant's distinct smell, which is really reminiscent of bergamot orange. So bergamot orange is a common ingredient in Earl Grey tea. So if you know that sort of distinct flavor of Earl Grey tea, it's very similar to the smell and flavor of this plant. Next, we'll look at this beautiful patch of spotted bee balm, which is more commonly known as spotted horsemint or Monarda punctata. And you can see what it looks like here. It grows in a more dry environment, and it actually flowers a little bit later in the year, around July and throughout August in my area. You can see why this plant is called the spotted horsemint, because its flowers have these distinct spots all over them. And actually the species name of this plant, punctata, means spotted. So it's a reference to these little dots. So the flowers of this species are yellow, and then above and below it has these bracts that have a whitish or pinkish color. And these are really distinct and very easy to recognize from a distance. Like the common bee balm, spotted horsemint has opposite leaves. You can see that the two larger leaves are oppositely arranged, and then it kind of has like little clusters of leaves sometimes at each node, but they're all opposite each other. So they always come out in little pairs. The leaves don't have as sharp of teeth as the bee balm, but you can see that it is toothed. And like all plants in the mint family, this plant has a square stem. It also has the same smell, really strong and distinct smell that all plants in this genus share. So once you learn the smell, you can really learn how to identify pretty much every member of the genus Monarda. Next, let's look at where these plants grow. So there are about 16 species of Monarda found in the United States, and we'll look at where 3 of the different species grow. The first one we looked at, the common bee balm or wild bergamot Monarda fistulosa, grows widespread throughout the eastern U.S. and into the Northeast, and it also can be found in the sort of Rocky Mountain states and sort of western high elevation mountain states. It grows from Montana down into Colorado and then west into the mountains of Arizona. The second species we looked at, the spotted horsemint or Monarda punctata, is much more of a southeastern species, so it can be found throughout the coastal plain, as it's called, those sort of Gulf Coast states, throughout much of Texas and Oklahoma and into southern Kansas. And there's also sort of a separate population of it growing around the Great Lakes area. The third species, which we didn't look at, is the lemon bee balm or lemon horsemint, which is Monarda citriodora. That plant looks a lot like the spotted bee balm, very similar, except instead of having yellow flowers with spots, it has whitish or pink flowers with spots. And it grows in Texas, throughout much of Oklahoma, and then in Kansas, throughout parts of Kansas. So it's much more of a sort of a central United States Great Plains plant. It can handle more of the dry temperatures. It also does have some scattered populations in the southeast as well. So regardless of which species of Monarda you have in front of you, they all share the same basic edible and medicinal uses, although you do want to experiment with the different species and the different flavor profiles and whatnot. So before we talk about the medicinal uses, I will mention that this plant also has some edible uses. People will drink bee balm or horsemint tea just for the flavor, and it's also used as a spice. So some people actually call the bee balm wild oregano, and it's really good in place of thyme or oregano in different recipes. Although, like I said, the flavor between the different species does vary. And there is a really good forager who is actually a chef. His name's Alan Burgo, and he said that he harvests the bee balm more than almost any other plant, and he has some really good recipes of how to use it on his website, foragerchef.com. Now on to the medicinal uses. So these plants are very effective at treating a wide array of different types of infections, from viral infections to bacterial infections, and even like fungal or yeast infections as well. So first and foremost, I think of this plant as a good like cough, cold, and flu herb. It's wonderful to try right when you're feeling like you're getting a tickle in the back of your throat, you might be about to get sick. It'd be a good idea to start sort of slamming back cups of tea. And unlike something you'd buy at the drugstore, where maybe an antibiotic that's been prescribed to you, you're not going to want to take it just a couple times a day. You're going to want to take a cup every couple hours and really stay on top of it. And that goes for any type of infection you're trying to treat. So it can also be used for treating like bacterial infections, including sinus infections. You could even use it to treat ear infections. And so for things like bronchitis or congestion in the lungs or nose or a sinus infection, one of the things that people recommend is doing a steam inhalation. And I'll show how to do that later on in this video, where you actually boil some of the plant or simmer it and then inhale the steam to directly apply the medicinal action to the affected area. And so I did mention congestion. This plant can be used as an anti-catarrhal or expectorant herb. And so catarrh is a sort of an older name for the phlegm that gets stuck in your lungs. And so we want to be able to break that phlegm up and expel it. And that's what an expectorant usually refers to. And another word for that is an anti-catarrhal. Okay, so this is an anti-catarrhal plant. People will use it for lung and nose congestion. It can also be used for sore throats. You see a lot of historical uses of it being used for sore throats. And it can be used for things like urinary tract infections as well. So it's really good internally for different types of infections. You can use it for yeast or candida infections. And the herbalist Kiva Rose Hardin said that she's used it on dozens of clients over the years, and it's never failed her as a remedy for acute infections, both internally and externally. So you can also use it externally as an antiseptic for cuts or sores that are becoming infected to help clean it out. So it's an excellent antiseptic, anti-infective herb. Like many plants in the mint family, horsemint is a nervine, or a plant that has a beneficial effect upon the nervous system. It's a really good plant for relaxing, sort of calming the nerves and helping people unwind at the end of a long, hard day when you feel like your nerves are kind of frazzled and you need something to help induce a mild relaxation. And for that reason, it can also be used before bedtime to sort of help you get into the nighttime mode and sort of fall asleep. Horsemint specifically is a plant that's also uplifting to the mood. It can help sort of brighten the mood a little bit, and the herbalist Matthew Wood says that it helps cheer you up. Now, like other mints, this plant also has an affinity for the digestive system, and especially the aromatic mints, or the mints with a really strong smell. Those oils are going to be really, really good at sort of calming down the stomach, settling the stomach. And horsemint specifically is a well-known carminative, or a plant that helps expel excess gas from the digestive tract. So if you feel really bloated, or if you have an upset stomach, maybe even some mild stomach cramps, or if you feel like your food is not really digesting quick enough. Whenever you eat, you just have this full feeling for a long time, and you need it to help sort of promote digestion a little bit. Horsemint is going to be an excellent plant for that, just like many other aromatic plants in the mint family. Now, there is a lot more we could say about the medicinal uses of horsemint and bee balm, but it's a little bit beyond the scope of this video to dive into them in detail, so I'll just briefly mention them here. One is that this plant was used extensively for headaches by Native Americans. There's at least 6 different records of it being used by different tribes. That's 6 different tribes from all over the US. And it was either placed directly on the head on the outside, sometimes it was drank as a tea, or it was like placed up to the nose and actually inhaled. So there's a few different ways that that was applied. It was also used as an emmenagogue. So this is a plant that can increase menstrual flow or stimulate menstrual flow if there is sluggish menstruation. And for that reason, it's actually not at all recommended that you use this plant during pregnancy. So it's not really good, even though it's really good for nausea, it's not good for nausea from like morning sickness. So do not use this plant if you're pregnant. At least that's my opinion, especially in the first trimester. This plant has also been used for tinnitus. So the herbalist Matthew Wood reports that this plant can help with ringing in the ears. And also it's been used for fevers. That's one of the main uses historically when someone feels really cold or clammy, that certain type of fever where you feel like you just can't get warm. This plant will help stimulate blood flow outward and help warm sort of a chilly fever. So it's been used a lot for that historically. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the kitchen and I'll show you how to prepare this plant into a medicine. Okay, now all we're going to do to make a medicine with this plant is make a standard infusion, and the ratio we're going to use is 1 teaspoon of the dried crumbled up herb for every cup of water. So I've boiled 2 cups of water in this pot, and now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the dried herb, and I'm going to let it steep for about 10 minutes, okay? And then I'll drink maybe about a cup will be the dosage for me. And the part of the plant we're using is the whole above ground part of the plant. We're using the leaves and the flowers, okay? And there is one thing that I will mention about the harvesting of this plant, and that is that the leaves will very often have a type of white mildew on them. This is a really common mildew that is found on plants in the genus Monarda. So you will want to avoid this mildew and be on the lookout for it because it's very common when you're harvesting the plant. However, you don't want to mistake it for the whitish bracts of the plant we looked at earlier. The ones we looked at earlier were mostly pink, but they can be pink or white. So here you see the whitish bracts of the plant, and it will take you, a second to be able to tell the difference, but the whitish bracts are completely normal. The whitish mildew is what you want to avoid. So I will go ahead and add these in. See, this water is still piping hot. It's fresh off the stove. And we'll let that steep. Next, let's look at how to make a steam inhalation. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing. I've boiled some water here. And so I'm just going to add a little handful of the herb. I'm going to crumble it up, add it into this water. And then the second we drop those herbs in there, the oils from the plant are going to start to evaporate. So what I'm going to do is just uncover the pot. I'm going to take a towel and put it over my head. And then I'm going to carefully inhale the steam. And that is going to apply the medicinal constituents directly to my lungs and sinuses. So this is going to work for some people to break up that sinus congestion. And it may also work for some people for headaches, but it's going to affect everyone a little bit differently. So keep in mind, when I do this personally, I tend to get somewhat of a mild lingering headache later on in the day. I can definitely feel the effects of it, but then later on I do get a mild headache. So I don't know if that's going to be the case for everyone, but definitely keep that in mind if you decide to experiment with this plant. And y'all, there's one more use that I forgot to mention earlier, and it's that bee balm was highly valued as a kidney medicine among some Native American groups. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed learning about bee balm and horsemint. Again, it's the genus Monarda. And my name is Matthew Hunter with Legacy Wilderness Academy. Again, if you want to learn more about medicinal plants of the Southeast, make sure to download my free guide to medicinal plants in the link in the description below this video. And also, if you want to learn about another plant that's really good at knocking out cold and flu and has been used as an antiviral for that purpose, you can check out my video right here on the sweet gum tree, a powerful medicinal plant. I'll see you guys in the next one.